My first mistake was leaving the kitchen window slightly open. My second mistake was thinking the police would get here in time. It was 2:37 a.m. when I woke up to a strange noise downstairs. Something subtle, a faint creak, like someone gently pushing the living room door open, trying not to make a sound. My heart pounded. I live alone in a house on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon, and I've always been paranoid about security. Reinforced locks, cameras, motion sensors. But none of that mattered now. I could hear footsteps. With shaking hands, I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, and hit call. The sound of the line connecting was deafening in the silence of the house. 911. What's your emergency? My voice came, out as a choked whisper. There's someone in my house. The dispatcher remained calm. She told me to lock my bedroom door and stay on the line until the police arrived. I did exactly that, but as I reached for the doorknob to turn the key, the footsteps stopped, right outside my door. Then, someone whispered my name. I froze. My mind struggled to process what had just happened. How did this person know my name? The 911 operator was still on the line. Her voice sounded muffled beneath the blood pounding in my ears. Sir, are you still there? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Every cell in my body was locked in place, waiting, praying that I had imagined it. But then it came again. A whisper, slow and sickly, my name drawn out savored, and then a click. The doorknob turned. Instinctively, I pressed my weight against the door, holding it shut with everything I had. A second of absolute silence, then a violent push from the other side. My feet slid back a few inches. They're here, they're trying to get in. I finally managed to scream into the phone. Stay with me. Officers are on their way. My eyes darted to the gap beneath the door. Shadows shifted there, the intruder's feet adjusting in an odd way, like they were leaning in, listening to my breathing. Then another sound. Not a shove, not a kick. Something much, much worse. The jingling of keys. I held my breath. My heart felt like it was about to explode. The intruder's voice came through the crack in the door, almost amused. You locked the door too late, and then the key slid into the lock. Clack. The metallic sound of the key turning in the lock was deafening in the silence. My muscles locked. My hands were so sweaty that I almost slipped as I pressed harder against the door. How did he have a key to my house? Sir, are you still there? The 911 operator's voice pulled me back to reality. He has a key. He's unlocking the door. I could hear her breathing change on the other end of the line. Even she knew what this meant. This wasn't a normal break-in. Barricade yourself in a closet, escape through a window. Do anything to stay safe. Officers are 3 minutes away. 3 minutes. 3 minutes can last a lifetime. The lock clicked one final time, disengaging. The doorknob turned slowly. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body refused to move. I could only watch as the door cracked open, just a sliver at first, then a few inches, until a pale hand slipped inside, its bony fingers crawling over the wood like a hungry spider. That's when I noticed something was wrong. The fingers were too long, and then came the smell. A rancid, sweet, and rotting stench like meat left out in the sun for days. My throat tightened. This wasn't human. What do you want? My voice trembled. The intruder finally spoke, and I will never forget that sound. It was low, distorted, as if multiple voices were whispering in unison. I'm already inside. Behind me, in the darkness of my bedroom, I heard the sound of my closet creaking open. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped my phone. The closet door stood ajar, revealing nothing but darkness inside. My breath came in short, panicked gasps. I knew for a fact that I had closed it before going to bed. The line was still open. The operator's voice crackled in my ear. Sir, stay with me. Officers are almost there. Do not engage. But I wasn't listening anymore because from the depths of the closet something moved. A shifting of fabric. A slow, deliberate sound like fingers dragging across the wooden floor. The smell was worse now. thick and choking. And then I saw it. At first, just a faint outline, a deeper shade of black against the darkness. Then a pair of eyes, sunken, hollow, gleaming wet in the dim light. I stumbled back, slamming against the bedroom door. The thing inside the closet moved toward me, impossibly slow, as if savoring my terror. The voice on the other side of the door, the one that had unlocked it, the one that should have been outside, spoke again, closer this time. "You locked the door too late." My blood turned to ice. That voice. It was inside the room now. I bolted for the window, fumbling with the latch, but my hands were slick with sweat. Wider. I couldn't get a footsteps, wet, dragging footsteps, crossed the room toward me. Then the last thing I ever wanted to hear. The operator's voice turned urgent, frantic. "Sir, get out of the house now. The officers just arrived." And she stopped, a pause, a beat of silence. And then, in a whisper, she said something that made my stomach drop. "Sir, if the police are outside, then who's in there with you?" The world seemed to slow. My thoughts, my breath, even the pounding of my heart, all of it froze in place. If the police were outside, then who was in here with me? I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My body was locked in place as the weight of those words crushed me. Then, behind me, the whisper came again, right next to my ear. "Run." A breath, hot, wet, unnatural, brushed against my neck. I didn't think. I reacted. I lunged at the window, wrenching it open with everything I had. The night air hit my face as I threw myself through the frame, my body twisting midair before I crashed onto the wet grass below. Pain shot through my shoulder, but I didn't stop. I scrambled to my feet, sprinting barefoot across the yard, the cold ground cutting into my skin. The cops! Find the cops! A blinding flash of red and blue lights burned into my vision as I stumbled toward the patrol cars, skidding to a stop in front of my house. "Help me! Someone's in there!" Officers jumped out, guns drawn, barking orders. I turned back toward my bedroom window. The blinds were still swaying from where I had burst through, but the room was empty. No figure, no shadow, nothing. The front door was still locked when the police broke it down. They swept the house, checked every room, every closet. They found no one. No signs of forced entry, no muddy footprints. Nothing was missing, except for one thing, the spare key, the one I kept in a drawer near the front door, the one only I knew about. Gone. The lead officer studied me carefully, his face unreadable. "Are you sure you saw someone inside?" I didn't know what to say. I had seen it. I had heard it. The whisper, the smell, the thing in my closet. I wasn't crazy. Then the officer's radio crackled. "Dispatch to Unit 5, we checked the security cameras in the area." A pause. "You're gonna want to see this." The officer exchanged a glance with his partner, then turned back to me. "Stay here." His voice was steady, but something in his expression had changed. Before, he had looked skeptical, like he was humoring a paranoid homeowner who had imagined things in the dark. Now, he looked uneasy. I watched as he walked over to his cruiser, muttering something into his radio. The other officers continued, sweeping my house, their flashlights bouncing off the walls through the open windows. My stomach twisted as I realized that none of them seemed to be in a hurry, because in their eyes there was no threat, no intruder, no crime. I was alone in this. I tried to steady my breathing, to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, there was a logical explanation, a sleep-deprived hallucination, a shadow that played tricks on me. But that didn't explain the whisper, the smell, the key. A gust of wind blew past me and I shivered, wrapping my arms around myself. My yard felt too open, too exposed, like someone was still watching me. Then the officer returned. His face was different now, tense. We checked the neighborhoods, surveillance cameras. Something about the way he said it made my mouth go dry. He hesitated, looking down for a brief second before meeting my eyes again. "We saw you." I swallowed hard. "We saw you climb through the window, run to us, but before that..." He stopped. A heavy pause, like he was debating whether or not he should tell me what he saw. There was no one else on the footage. The words didn't register at first. What? That's impossible. The officer let out a slow breath and ran a hand over his face. You don't understand. I stared at him, heart hammering. I didn't understand. He glanced toward his car, then took a step closer, lowering his voice. We checked the timestamp. You called 911 at exactly 2:37 a.m. I nodded. That was right. I remembered waking up, hearing the footsteps. I remembered everything. The cameras show you leaving the house at 2:39. A shiver crawled down my spine. Okay. His jaw tightened. Your bedroom light was off the entire time. I blinked. That's not possible. He studied me carefully, like he was waiting for me to process what he was saying. I was awake. I saw. Then why did the footage show your closet door opening before you even called 911? It felt like the world had stopped turning. My throat closed up. My breath hitched. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. The officer didn't say anything else. He didn't have to, because I understood now. That thing, whatever it was, had been inside my room before I ever woke up, sitting in the dark, waiting. And the worst part, I still didn't know what fell between us. The officer watched me, waiting, maybe for me to argue, maybe for me to tell him he was wrong. But I couldn't, because I knew he wasn't. Something had been in my house, not just tonight, before tonight, watching, waiting. It had let me sleep, let me exist in my own home, all while lurking just out of sight. The whisper echoed in my skull. I'm already inside. My stomach twisted violently. I wanted to be sick. My hands trembled so hard I had to clench them into fists to keep from falling apart completely. Then the radio on the officer's shoulder crackled again. Dispatch to Unit 5, we found something else. His grip on the radio tightened. Go ahead. Another pause. Then, the voice on the other end returned, lower now, hesitant. We ran the footage again, slowed it down. There was something. A prickle of ice spread through my veins. The officer's face hardened. What did you see? Static crackled. Then, the moment before he climbed out the window, we saw movement. My breath hitched. Movement? Behind him. A thick, choking dread coiled around my ribs. The officer's shoulders went rigid. Explain. The dispatcher's voice wavered. It was only for a second, a fraction of a second, but when we slowed it down, they stopped. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until my lungs screamed for air. Keep talking. The officer's voice was tense. The radio hissed, then something was behind him. In the room. Tall, thin. I felt like I was sinking. We didn't see a face, just the shape. But the moment he started climbing out, silence. My hands turned ice cold. What? The officer's grip on his radio tightened. The dispatcher hesitated. Then, it reached for him. The world tilted. My vision blurred at the edges. I felt it then. Not just fear, but something deeper, something primal. A terror that settled into my bones and would never, ever leave. Because in that instant, I knew. It hadn't been trying to kill me. It had been playing with me. And as I stood there, my breath ragged, my skin clammy, one last horrible realization crawled up my spine like a spider sinking its fangs into my flesh. If it had the key, if it had been inside before, then it could come back anytime it wanted. I wasn't safe. I would never be safe again. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it and want more tales that will keep you up at night, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Echoes of Fear. Your support helps me keep sharing these terrifying stories with you. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you again for being here. Stay safe if you can.